Welcome to the Conceive, Believe, and Achieve podcast, where we delve into the minds of elite athletes and coaches to uncover their secrets behind their success. I'm your host, Sean Garris, former university wrestling coach, D1 wrestler, national champion, Olympic trials medalist, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, a three-time world team coach in grappling, and author. Join me as we explore the realms of training, mindset, goal setting, overcoming adversity, and various coaching methodologies in the world of sports. Get ready to be inspired and motivated as we learn from the best in the game on our journey to achieving greatness.
Today's guest is all the way from the great state of New York, just across the river there in Buffalo, from the University at Buffalo. Is that correct? He's the university's strength and conditioning coach. It's Ryan Horton. Ryan, correct me if I was wrong with those titles.
Yes, just small clarification with football, director of football strength and conditioning. So there's a Olympic sports staff, basketball strength staff that takes care of those sports. I just deal primarily with football.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, we were I guess DMing back and forth. That's what the young kids call it, I guess. But we would have called it emailing back and forth there on Instagram. I came across your page. Absolutely. Watching your athletes just kick the snot out of some of the weights there, man. It was pretty cool. I thought, well, let's get this guy on the podcast. Let's talk a little bit about what he's got. And could you tell me a little bit about your background before we start? I know that we know that you're at the university, but maybe give us a little history of how you got to become that at that position there.
Okay, sure. So I'm a bit of an old head at this point. So the backstory is a bit long, but I started at the University of Tennessee. That's kind of where I got to start. I was played college football at a small school in Ohio, and when I came from a small high school as well, and when I learned that strength conditioning was a thing, I was all in, and so as I was around, graduating, went down to a clinic at the University of Tennessee, and met a coach there named Chris Stewart, and was like, would love to, come down and volunteer and just be part of the staff. Just want to get my foot in the door. And he was nice enough to bring me down for an interview, and they brought me onto the staff. And at that point, it was, sink or swim. Either I was going to figure it out and make it as a coach, or I was going to have to find something else to do. So stuck around and was there for almost 5 years. Worked my way from literally a volunteer all the way to a full-time assistant. From there, went to FIU, which is Florida International, down in Miami. Worked there for about 4 or 5 years as well, and then have made stops at a private facility called Elkin Sports Performance in Richmond, Elon University, which is in North Carolina, Temple, which is in Philly, and then actually ran my own business for a couple of years, and then now at the University of Buffalo.
Hey, there's pretty good. I hear you are a Ohio boy. Then you went to school in Ohio as well. I went down at the school in Michigan, so there's a little bit of a rivalry there. So some of our folks in Michigan don't like you guys.
Yes, very much. And so the school that I went to was right outside of Columbus, and a lot of people refer to that as the state up north. They don't even like to say the name of it in Ohio. It's just the state up north. So
yeah, it's some pretty good rivalry, to tell you the truth, in football down there and up here. So it's a pretty good games this year. So absolutely love the connection. So you've been it's almost like you've been to all these universities. They're top level universities as well. I keep saying universities because up here in Canada, because that's where I'm from. For those of you the American folks that are watching, I know that down in the States, it's usually referred to as college. College is something different up here. It's more trade school, but yours is more all encompassing.
It's really interchangeable. There's some schools that will go by college, and then Boston College, right up in the Northeast here. And then some schools go by university, and some will go by University of blank, and then some will go, they'll put it at the end. So very, very interchangeable, just depending on the school. I don't know if there's really any rhyme or reason behind most of them, but university is very interchangeable.
Yeah, not so up here. I think there's a little bit of a snobbish culture up here when it comes to the name of university and college. It's just one of those things that up here in Canada, that just we don't interchange it. If you say college, you know it's a trade kind of place. It's a 2 year. It's usually a 2 year. I think it's kind of similar to a junior college.
Junior college.
Yeah, so similar to that.
Junior college, I think, is what we refer to it here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're on the staff with Buffalo there. I got like I was telling you, about 10 questions that I kind of wanted to ask with the podcast. Just kind of hit on things because, again, football, we're a wrestling channel, but there's things that I want to talk to you about football as well, because I played football, as well. And I really think, wrestling and football, some positions really actually align, especially at defensive end and with wrestling. But what I wanted to know is, like, how is like the strength and conditioning? How does it align with the University of Buffalo's football program?
I mean, it's a huge piece of it. And just to your point, with there being, a big crossover between football and wrestling, we've got a really good wrestling program here at Buffalo. And we actually had our wrestling coach last summer. We had our wrestling coaches come over and actually work with and teach our guys, some grappling techniques and some hand fighting and how to use leverage in their hips and whatnot, because in my opinion, there's so much carryover from that standpoint between football and wrestling. It's a sport about leverage, right? It's a sport about, being able to use your hands and being able to be powerful and explosive. But strength and conditioning is it's a very integral piece of what we do. So we're in the winter program, which is like kind of dead in the middle of what we consider the off-season program. And the guys are with us more than they are with the football coaches at this point in the year. And so they'll be with us, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a week. And then they'll be with the football coaches right now for an hour or two, doing meetings, doing walkthroughs, different things. And then once we get into spring ball, they'll be obviously doing a lot more football. We'll have practices, but we're still training, we're still lifting, we're still doing all those things during spring ball. Then in the summertime, they're back to being with us for 80% of their time. And we'll work through June and July, and then when we get into fall, into our in season, we'll go through camp, and then obviously their time becomes predominantly much more football, but they're still working with us 2, 3, 4 times a week, depending on how much they're playing on the field. And so they actually did a study a few years back at the University of Tennessee, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of a college football player, their time spent, 86% of their time is spent with the strength coach, with the strength staff. So, which is a pretty crazy statistic to think that out of all the time that they spend within athletics, within football, that big of a piece of their time is with us, because we're with them year round. Even when they're in season and they're doing more football things, we're still with them. Like I see our guys day in and day out, almost 365 all the way throughout the year.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important announcement.
Looking for top-tier healthcare in the GTA? Look no further than the Core Optimum Health Center. Founded by Dr. Pat Graham, official chiropractor for the Toronto Blue Jays, their clinic offers a wide range of services, including physiotherapy, chiropractic care, acupuncture, massage therapy, naturopath, and more, all in a caring professional environment. They also are proud partners with the Shift Concussion Management Program, offering the latest concussion care and online neurocognitive impact testing at their Mississauga location. At the Core, your health is their priority. Visit the Core Optimum Health Center today and experience industry-leading care.
And how would you balance strength, endurance, and speed with that type of training?
So it really depends. We kind of progress it and put our time into different buckets depending on the time of the year. So to go back to that calendar, that big picture viewpoint, when we're in the winter and we have more time with the guys, now is when we do a lot of our speed work, right? Especially when it comes to straight ahead speed. So we'll have 2 days a week. We just finished up our top speed day today, where we're working more distance speed. So we're hitting drills and we're hitting reps that are 20, 30, 40 plus yards. And then on Thursdays, we're working more acceleration, right? So we're working stars, takeoffs, acceleration, mechanics, that kind of thing, anywhere from 10 to 20 yards. So we're hitting speed twice a week in the winter. And then we're lifting 4 days a week, and we'll also incorporate, plyometrics and mobility and all kinds of, a holistic approach. And then when we get into spring ball, it's more of, injury prevention, it's mobility. We're still lifting. We're still trying to get stronger in the spring. And then when we get into the summertime, we start focusing more on what I call football speed, right? So it's more acceleration, deceleration, change of direction, moving at angles, moving in the way that they're going to move on the football field. Not very often do you get a chance to run for, 40s are very popular within football. Like, what's your 40 time? The NFL Combine is going on right about now, and your 40 time is one of the biggest tests that the NFL will test for college guys coming in to kind of see where their speed is. But when you're actually on the football field, you don't run 40 yards in a straight line, hardly ever. And so in the summertime, we'll do a lot more of that acceleration, deceleration, change of direction, a little more conditioning. We're still lifting 4 days a week in the weight room. And then as we get into the season, then it becomes, what they're doing from a running standpoint is predominantly going to be what they're doing on the field. And so at that point in the season, it's more of what we're doing with them in the weight room. From a recovery standpoint, again, mobility is always a huge component of what we do. And then trying to, depending on how much they're on the field, so if they're a starter, they're getting a lot of reps, they'll be with us 2 days a week, right? And we're just trying to maintain our strength so that way that we're as strong in November, December as we were when we started the season in August. And then if you're maybe not getting as many reps, you'll be part of what we call just our developmental program, which you're going to be with us a couple additional days a week. And the idea behind that is, if you're not going to be on the field, we want to try to maximize your development during that time. So that way, those guys that was on that developmental squad, now that we're rolling into the new off season, they're able to bridge that gap between, some of the older guys on the roster, and now they're positioned physically in a place where now they can go compete for, a position in spring ball.
Mm-hmm. Now, listening to you talk about the lifting portion, I had a coach telling me it wasn't a U.S. coach, it was a Canadian coach, so there may be a difference of opinions. I don't know what yours is, but they were lifting not like the traditional bodybuilders. It was when they were lifting, I guess, full body on these days. What is your opinion of that, and how do you guys do that at Buffalo?
So that's a great question. So there's a lot of different philosophies behind how you lift. I'm an Olympic lifting based philosophy guy. I was kind of, when I got my start at the University of Tennessee, that's kind of what I was, that's what I was taught. It's what I believe in. It's what I've seen work just years and years and years. And so if a lot of people would consider that basically total body lifting, right? So we clean, we snatch, we jerk, and we do variations of all those movements, right? We also squat, we bench, we overhead press, big compound movements. In our auxiliary work, supplemental work kind of at the end, we'll do some bodybuilding type movements just to help us build hypertrophy, build strength, build size. But that's a small piece of what we do compared to the amount of time that we spend on the Olympic lifts, on back squat, front squat, bench press, pull-ups, those kind of bang for your buck type exercises. I don't think being a body, if you're going to train athletes, right, you should be training them to be athletes, not bodybuilders, not power lifters. And we're not trying to get our guys to be Olympic lifters either. But in my opinion, if you're going to train an athlete, the more explosively that you can drive through your hips, knees, and ankles. The faster you can run, the higher you jump, the more explosively you can come off the ball. Even as a wrestler, if I'm going to, and then I'm going to throw out a couple of wrestling terms that I'm probably going to butcher some, but if you're going in for a double leg takedown, right, that's all hips, knees, and ankles. That's all triple extension. And so we want to train athletes to be better athletes. I always talk to our guys about, my job is twofold. It's to help you become a better football player, to help you. Athletes are coming here to play football. They're not coming here to lift weights, right? Lifting weights is a byproduct of what they're coming here to do. And so my job isn't to see how many guys I can get to squat 600 pounds. My job isn't to see, how you do this lift or how you do this lift. The means to the end is to improve the performance on the football field. And so everything that we're doing from a lifting standpoint, from a speed standpoint, is with that in mind. And then the second piece of that is to help reduce injury, injury prevention, try to reduce injuries as much as humanly possible. Football is a contact sport. You're not going to eliminate all of them, but that's basically, the two-headed monster that we're trying to accomplish is improve performance on the football field and help prevent injuries. And in my mind, lifting like a bodybuilder doesn't accomplish those things, right? We want to use our entire body as we're moving, and that's kind of one of the things that the Olympic lifts I think does.
Okay, and could you describe maybe like just a daily routine of what maybe one of your athletes would go through?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just take today, for example. So we came in today, and like I said, today was our top end speed work. So we're going to go out, we're going to go through a dynamic warm up, and then we hit some speed mechanic drills, high knees, ham kicks, A skips, that kind of thing. And then we did some flying 10s. We were doing 20-yard builds, 10 yards flies. With some of the bigger guys, we'll shorten that distance a little bit, and we'll go 10-yard build, 10-yard flies. Just because that's kind of more of what they're going to do, and don't want to expose them to hamstring issues when that's not really what they're going to be doing on the football field anyway. All right, so we'll do all of our speed work outside, and we're really fortunate here the way that our setup is our indoor is attached to our brand new weight room, and so we're able to walk literally from our indoor field directly into the weight room. So after our top end speed work, we'll come into the weight room. Today's an Olympic lifting day for us, or a power day. The way that we break up the week is Mondays and Thursdays are our power days, Olympic days, speed days, and then on Tuesdays and Fridays are our strength days. And so just kind of give you an example of that. So today we did power snatches off blocks, and we did power cleans, and then we're just now today started progressing our guys into doing cleans, right? So talking about doing the full catch. So I'm exploding up through, and then I'm catching the bar, in the bottom, and then driving up through it. So we started working on that progression today. Then we did clean pulls, which is just some people call them power shrugs, but it's a power clean without the catch, essentially is what it is. And then we went into some back and bicep, which would be those bodybuilding type movements at the end of it. Now, if you take a strength day, tomorrow we'll come in and we'll do some plyometric work on the field, we'll do some mobility work on the field, shoulder mobility work, and then we'll come into the weight room, and that's our big back squat day is tomorrow. So we'll go relatively heavy on back squat. Then we'll hit some type of a single leg movement, some type of a posterior chain movement. And then we'll get into incline bench. Tomorrow's our volume pressing day. So we'll do incline bench for our volume day. And then we'll finish up the day with some shoulders and some chest and some tricep auxiliary type work.
Sounds pretty cool. Man, it's a lot of work.
It is, yes.
It sounds like you're busy, to tell you the truth. When you are doing this, is there a breakup there's different positions in football, right? For those wrestlers that are listening and don't know anything about football, you have like the receivers, you have the linemen. There's got to be a huge discrepancy in how, must be the poundage that they lift, but also is there any difference in the way your philosophy with them?
So there is. So there is. There's some portions of the workout that everyone's going to do, right? We're all going to bench, we're all going to squat, we're all going to clean. because no matter what position you play on the football field, you need to be strong, you need to be powerful, you need to be explosive. But what we also do is we will individualize and customize workouts based upon a few different things. And first up that you just mentioned is by position. So just to give you the example I just gave you, talking about like our big guys, our offensive linemen and D tackles, modifying the distance that we're doing that top end speed work with. And then we may have some individual towards the back end of the workout where the wide receivers will do a particular thing. The offensive lineman may be doing something completely different that's going to align more with what they're going to actually do on the football field. Because a wide receiver and an offensive lineman, they're on the field at the same time, but they're almost playing completely different sports by what the demands that they have on their bodies are. And so we try to take that into account, and we try to do some specific things with each position group that's going to be more beneficial for what they're going to individually do. And then we'll also individualize it based on each individual guy. So we'll sit down and we'll break guys down into different buckets as far as what is going to be most advantageous for that guy to help improve his performance. Is it lower body strength? Is it explosiveness? Is it mobility? Is it core? Is it, body composition? What is it that this guy can do that's going to help him individually? And you're going to have, I think we've got 7 or 8 different buckets, right? And we figure out what's going to be most beneficial, and then we come up with plans for each one of those things. And then we'll do that at the back end of the workout, where we're all kind of doing a very similar type thing. And then at a certain point towards the end of the workout, then we split in a whole bunch of different directions. And whether it's individual position work for that day or individual based on individual needs work that day, we'll split into a bunch of different directions to try to get 10, 15 minutes of work that is going to help guys specifically.
For those of the listeners here that aren't I'm familiar with football, but why I ask that question is because when you look at football and you look at the different positions, there, like you said, there are so many different actions. It's almost like you are playing a different sport. The receivers are running longer distance. The linemen are basically running into trucks every every down.
Yeah. So and just body types too, right? Like today in our weight room, we had a 5'8", 160-pound receiver, right? And 2 platforms down from him was a 6'5", 330-pound, left tackle, right? And so just completely different body types, completely different needs, completely different demands, and like you said, like what they're doing on the field, it almost couldn't be more different.
Mm-hmm. What about assessments? When a freshman comes in, do you do assessments with them? And also, are you doing assessments yearly with the veterans, like when they first come in, I guess?
We do. So we do a few different things. So first and foremost, they're going to get assessed by our medical staff, right? So the medical staff is going to have a full assessment to look at previous injury history, and then some of the different ways that they're going to move, and just a full physical exam before they're cleared just to participate in what we're doing with them. As far as in the weight room goes, we'll do a few different things. So we use what's called a NORD board, which is basically just it's a really cool device that measures hamstring strength, and it measures hamstring strength isolaterally. So you can see, is there strength deficit, with hamstrings in each individual guy? Like we have certain markers based upon body type and based upon size. And then we also can look at left versus right, to where if one side, there's a deficit on one side or the other. Because if there is, that's one of your leading indicators for hamstring injuries. If you got one hamstring, it's a lot stronger than the other hamstring, you're either going to overcompensate and you're going to end up with issues, or that weaker hamstring sooner or later is going to give out on you. And then we'll also do different kind of movement screens. I'm a big overhead squat guy, and we'll do overhead squats with guys when they come in to see how they've been. An overhead squat can tell you so much in one movement. It can give you an idea of lumbar flexibility, shoulder flexibility, hip mobility, ankles, Achilles. You can get so much information just having a guy grab a PVC pipe, or you can grab a broomstick, hold it over top of your ears, arms extended, and do a full squat. You can learn a wealth of information in about 10 seconds just with that one movement. And then once we get through that initial kind of movement testing, that overhead squat is something that we will incorporate into our complexes for our warm-ups before we start our lifts. We'll do that multiple times per week, all the way throughout the year. One, it's a great warm-up, right? It's going to warm up the shoulders, warm up the hips, warm up the core, warm up all of those different things. But I can also see a whole bunch of information based on just a guy holding a barbell and doing an overhead squat, right? And that comes in really handy in season, where we can see, a guy coming off of a game, that maybe got their shoulders banged up a little bit. How do their shoulders look? Are they able to go through range of motion? Do they have strength? Do they have stability? So we'll do a number of different things. But I would say the two big ones that we probably do is the hamstring testing with the NOR boards, and then just overhead squatting.
Mm-hmm. As you're talking there, I'm starting to go back to the gym. Looking at various, as you're lifting in a regular gym, you go in there and you kind of assess the people that are working out. And, often I would see somebody with, one arm up on the bench press and the other one kind of down. And I did a little research and I realized, what was going on with that. But had somebody like that come into your room that had an imbalance, do you correct that? Obviously, well, I guess you obviously try, but are they still put in the program, or do you correct that deficit before they actually get into, I guess, playing on the field?
So with what we do in the weight room, we're always going to go technique over weight, right? And sometimes even at the dismay of some of the freshmen that come in, right? Because they want to come in, they just want to go. And they all start with the bar. They all start with the bar. We go through all our different movements. We don't assume anything, right? We don't assume that they've been taught how to do anything. So we're gonna teach them how to back squat with a barbell on their back. We're gonna teach them how to bench press with a barbell with no weight on it. We're gonna teach them how to overhead squat, how to hinge and do an RDL. We're gonna start with the basics. We're gonna start from square one. We're not gonna assume everything, and we're gonna teach, right? And if something like that comes up to where there is a major imbalance, then we'll put some correctives in place that can try to help, mitigate that imbalance and try to correct it and try to fix it based on whatever that is. And we're not going to put them in a position where obviously we don't want to, a lot of times when you do have an issue like that and then you load it up with a whole bunch of weight, well, then you're just digging yourself a deeper hole, because whatever that is, however they're compensating, they're just going to have to compensate even more as things get more and more strenuous. So if that means backing off on weight for a little bit until we get whatever that is fixed, then I have no hesitation doing that. We'll back off on weight and we'll slow play it, especially with freshmen, coming in the door. I mean, we have 4 to 5 years with these guys to develop them. And, if it does, to me, it doesn't make any sense rushing through those first few weeks, rushing through that first month, because we're trying to win the championship in, month one, right? It makes a lot more sense to me to take your time, make sure that everything's taught correctly, make sure guys know how to move correctly, make sure that we try to clean up any of those imbalances, any of those mobility issues. And that way, when we start to load, that we're moving things and we're healthy, we're safe, and we're doing things correctly. To me, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know what I mean? You're trying to build that foundation and those building blocks that's going to carry you through the next 4 or 5 years of your career.
That concludes part 1 of this episode. Part 2 will be released next week, but don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Coach Garris and on X, as well as our Facebook page, the Conceive, Believe, and Achieve podcast. I hope you found today's episode insightful and inspiring. Your support means the world to us, so don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a comment in the section below. Your feedback fuels our journey to bring you more valuable content and stories from the realm of sports. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, believing in yourself, and achieving greatness. Thank you for listening.